Hey everyone, Jake here for American Muscle, and in this video we're taking a look at the Flowmaster FlowFX Cat-Back Exhaust without tips, fitting 2015 and 2016 5.7 liter Hemi Challengers. Now there's no shortage of exhaust options out there for the Hemi Challenger, but if you're looking for a bit more of a subdued or daily driver friendly option, then this FlowFX system is going to be just your speed. This is going to combine that classic Flowmaster sound with an element of subtlety to give you a great option for a car that you drive every day. Volume-wise, we're going to give this a 2 out of 5 on our loudness meter, so it's not very intrusive, but you'll still get some additional rumble out of it. Enough to be noticeable, but not over the top by any means. Exhaust can be a difficult thing to get right balance-wise, and we all know that the Hemi can get rowdy. But as you heard in the clips at the beginning of this video, this setup kind of nails that perfect balance between additional sound and keeping things more subtle and family friendly. It's definitely a noticeable change versus stock, but it's not so much that it's going to get your neighbors in a tizzy. Now at idle you get that trademark Hemi rumble that you would expect from a Flowmaster system, but when you get into it, it's not really all that obtrusive. Even when you're just cruising around, the sound is more mild, it's relatively unobtrusive. It's a moderate step up from the stock system. It's the best way I can describe it. Now inside the cabin, of course, you are going to hear this more than you did your stock system. But again, it's not going to be so loud that you can't carry on a conversation. As you heard from the clips at the beginning of the video, it's there, it's got that nice low rumble to it, but it's not going to overpower your music or anything like that. It won't be so loud you can't carry on a conversation, and you're also not going to get a ton of drone out of this either. Now for a daily driven car or one that sees a lot of highway miles, I think that's a great benefit. You're going to get that sound profile that you want with none of the annoyances that sometimes come with aftermarket exhaust. And although Flowmaster calls these FlowFX mufflers a straight-through design, you can see through it, but you can also tell there's quite a bit of baffling in here, hence that more mild tone versus something like their Outlaw series. Now this again is going to contribute to keeping that drone at bay and helping make for a more pleasant drive without too much noise. Now another cool thing that we don't always see that is included with this system is an X-Pipe, which is a great thing to have included here because it not only helps combat drone, but it also improves exhaust flow. And it makes for a slightly deeper, more aggressive exhaust note. Not to mention that it's also going to help increase power at higher RPM. Now we're not going to be running this on the dyno to get power numbers, but as with any exhaust, you shouldn't expect too much in the way of actual raw horsepower and torque. This is going to be more about the improvement in sound and feel rather than outright power. Now one thing you also might have noticed that I did throw in at the beginning of the video, this does not include any tips. So you do actually get to save a little bit of money over a system that does have tips, and it keeps the OEM look. This is great for somebody who wants something that's a bit more on the subtle side. This system is constructed from 409 grade stainless steel, so you're going to get some pretty good rust and corrosion protection, though not quite as much as a system made from T304 stainless. However, you don't pay the price of T304 stainless either. We'll talk more about that in a moment. The piping here is all 2.5-inch mandrel bent tubing. That means you're going to get really good exhaust flow. It's going to help reduce back pressure as well, all of which is good not only for the sound, but also for power. Pricing might just be the best part though, as this system is going to come in right around $950. Now it's not the least expensive, but you are getting a good quality system with some nice features built in, such as that X-Pipe. You're going to save a ton of money over some of the more pricey options. But your car is still going to sound good, and it's going to be more than tolerable if you drive it every day. So for what you do get here, I would call this one a great buy. Installation comes in at a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you about 2 hours to complete. This is a bolt-in system that includes all the hardware you need in the box, and you don't need to modify anything on your car in order to fit it, since it utilizes all of your factory exhaust hanger locations. Now, doing an exhaust can be a bit finicky if you're working in a driveway on jack stands, so just make sure you've got some space and time to do it, but it is certainly something you can accomplish at home. All that said, let's head over to the shop now, and we'll walk you through that process.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, exhaust hanger remover tool, an extension, 13 and 15 millimeter sockets. What's up guys? Today we're installing an exhaust on our Challenger. First we're going to watch a quick uninstall video showing you how to remove your factory exhaust, and I'll meet you back here for the install.
First step here, I'm going to grab my impact gun, an extension, and a 13 millimeter socket, and I'm actually going to remove the hanger isolators directly from the frame, unbolting them from the vehicle, rather than using a removal tool and popping the isolators out. So we're going to keep them all in one piece attached to the exhaust and just remove them from the frame. So I go straight above the muffler, there's one behind it and one in front of it by the tips. Now when you do the second one, you want to make sure you have a hand on the muffler because it's going to want to drop down a little. All right, now we can do the same thing on the other side. So now you can grab a hanger removal tool and head back toward the middle section of your exhaust here. Now on the driver's side, you have this flex tube. Directly above that, there's a hanger into the isolator. I'm actually gonna pop this guy out. Now, as you're doing this, before you finish up removing the exhaust, it's a good idea to have a pole jack in place or a jack stand or something similar, maybe even a hydraulic jack, just to support the middle weight of the exhaust as you remove it. Now, if you have a helping hand during these final stages of unclamping it from the front of the vehicle, that goes a long way, so I'm gonna grab a buddy to hold the tips while I remove the front, and we can drop it all in one piece. Now you can grab your 15mm deep socket and loosen up the 2 clamps holding them to your cat pipes.
So the first thing we're gonna do is install our X-Pipe. I've got a couple clamps that we're gonna slip onto our pipe, and then we can raise it up into place. I've got a pole jack here to support the weight of the back of the X-Pipe while we clamp everything down. So now I'm gonna get our clamps slid onto the pipe first. And then we can raise this up into place. And now with that slid all the way on, we can grab our 15mm socket to tighten down our 2 clamps. Next we can install our mufflers. Now we have an offset end and a centered end. The offset side is going to be going onto our X-Pipe. Now the orientation is going to be like this. Obviously you can't put them like that. So we'll get another one of our clamps, slide it over our muffler inlet, and slide that on. I've still got the pole jack back here to support the weight until we can get one of our hangers installed. Then we'll take a 15mm socket to tighten up our clamp. And now I'm just going to adjust this so it's straight before I fully clamp this down. And then you can do that same thing on the other side of the X-Pipe. Now before we install our new exhaust, we're gonna have to pop off our 2 rubber isolators and our tip from each side of our mufflers. So I've got an exhaust hanger remover tool. We'll pop these 2 out, and we'll take a 13mm socket to remove our tip. Now for this back one, we have this strap that we can just pop off of our rod. And then we'll switch to our 13mm socket to pop off our tip. Now to remove the clamp that holds on our tip, it is tack welded on the inside here. So you could take a cutoff wheel to just grind that tack down to pop your clamp off. Or if you don't have one of those, you can do it with a pry bar just by bending it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the pry bar, I'm gonna get it on the back side of the clamp. I can pry against this hanger rod and we can pop that off. And once you have it pried back a little bit, you can get it in between here. And then you just pry until that tack weld breaks, and you can do that same thing on the other side. So now we're gonna transfer over everything that we popped off of our stock exhaust to our new tailpipes. So we have our 2 hangers. We can slide these on first. And then our strap, we're just gonna hook onto our rod. And then we have these retainer clips that are gonna go on the other side of our rod. And this is just gonna prevent the rod from coming out of the isolator. So get that on, then you can take a socket that fits over it to push it on. And then you can do that same thing for your other isolator. And then once you have those on, we can install our tip. So slide that on, get the clamp over it, and then we can snug it up just a little bit. We're gonna leave it a little bit loose until we do our final adjustments. And now you can do that same thing for your other pipe, and we can get our exhaust onto the car. So now we're ready to install our tailpipe. So first we're gonna take a clamp and get that over our muffler outlet, and then we can get our tailpipe into our outlet and also into the rubber isolator right above it. Now we can come to our back 2 hangers that we unbolted from the frame. I've got the bolt in a 13mm socket with an extension. And I will do that same thing on the rearmost hanger. And then we can throw that 13mm socket on our impact and tighten it down. And same thing for the other one. Now we can come back and tighten our clamp, but before we do that, we're gonna get our little retainer onto this hanger as well. Get that on, and then wiggle it down with a socket. And then once that's in place, you can come back to your clamp, get it in place, and take a 15mm socket to tighten it down. And then you can repeat that same process on the other side. Now lastly, we can come back to our tip. We can get that into place, centered up in our cutout. And then we'll take our 13mm socket and tighten that the rest of the way down. And then you can do that same thing on the other side.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the Flowmaster FlowFX Cat-Back Exhaust without tips, fitting 2015 and 2016 5.7 liter Hemi Challengers. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, for all things Challenger, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.